Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have one of the more unfavorable matchups for Death and Taxes in the format. Sean on Elves on the play, and he's going to lead out with a Wirewood Symbiote. Luke on Death and Taxes certainly has his work cut out for him, as this is a brutally difficult matchup. Usually Death and Taxes is well equipped to stop opposing combo decks, but as it turns out, Death and Taxes doesn't have the best ability to interact with exactly what Elves is trying to do. And, it looks like he's actually caught on one land, however, so that's not going to do him any favors. Heritage Druid could potentially allow for some more explosive plays here, but Rashad Port is going to be tapping down this one land, which can then get returned thanks to the Queer and Ranger's ability. Usually you want to start out with 3 mana on turn 2 with Elves, either a mana dork like Elvish Mystic, Finhorn, Llanowar Elf, of course, the OG. For a while was Deathrite Shaman, those were the days. But that said, you really want that, or Green Sun Zenith for X equals 0 when you can. Now Thalia has arrived, so Rashad Port not being used to interfere with this forest yet. 3 mana. 4 mana total with the replaying. No, just 1 mana left. Elvish Visionary, Forest. A Heritage Druid. Oh, and a crop rotation. Crop rotation for Natural Order. And this is going to be a lot of damage. I don't believe the Wirewood Symbiote has been used yet. And I mean, that's a lot of damage. He's going to scoop it up. So it looks to me like the Wirewood Symbiote could have been used to pick up the Elvish Visionary and get an attack in with that Heritage Druid as well. I'm not positive. Perhaps that was said over the cam without actually showing it. I don't think that would be the case. No reason to be taking shortcuts when you're playing on camera. But that said, that was enough for Luke to be scooping it up. And this is a brutally difficult match. I know I started with that sentiment, but I mean, we've actually had this deck available for people to play previously in the store prior to the pandemic. We actually had Elves built. We are also playing in store again, starting as of today. As I'm recording this video, this will be on several days after. We do record these ahead of time and schedule them out. That way I'm not trying to do one 10-minute video every morning. But Elves, we have had borrowed from very inexperienced pilots and still had them just stomp out people that have, won SCG Opens, people that have played on the Pro Tour level, still can get got by, like a 12-year-old when they're playing Elves versus Death and Taxes. It really does take a bit of luck and really tight play with Death and Taxes to have any type of chance versus Elves. Just because, as we saw, Natural Order for 4 mana wins the game, and it's really not that big a deal if it costs 5. Like, who cares if Thalia makes it cost 1 more? Most of what you're doing is playing creatures, so Thalia doesn't interact with that either, and you really need to have a solid sideboard plan, and, Elves very often can just answer or sidestep whatever sideboard plans you have. If you're going to bring in something like Grafdigger's Cage, sometimes they can just cast the Crater Hoof from hand. Sometimes they can just draw a ton of cards with Glimpse of Nature. Or maybe they just use a Reclamation Sage to blow it up as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. It's a solid card against Elves, don't get me wrong. Shutting off Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order is the type of thing that you'd want to do, but it's not going to be enough on its own. A Nettle Sentinel leading out for Sean, not a strong opening. Aether Vial for Luke. Masterpiece Edition, also a Cavern of Souls. Cards that definitely play much better when you're up against blue decks. Rishadenport able to tap down this forest, punishing this slow draw for Sean. Nettle Sentinel can get in there for 2 damage. Oh, wow, another 1-lander. Sean just believing in the heart of the cards here, keeping 1-landers in back-to-back games, completely ignoring my advice of making sure that you always have 3 mana available to you. We've got a Thalia and a Aether Vial. Rishadenport again going after that 1 lone forest. Oh, and another Rishadenport, just making this much worse. Rishadenport doing what it does. Aether Vials ticking up. Luke gonna have all sorts of plays available to him with this huge mana base and pair of Aether Vials. So we could potentially see some real value in terms of Flicker Wisp and Recruiter of the Guard, for example. Recruiter of the Guard can grab a Flicker Wisp, which can then flicker out the Recruiter and get another Flicker and another Flicker. Just keep flickering that Recruiter of the Guard. You want to go even more ridiculous, you can get Recruiter of the Guard into Recruiter of the Guard and just create tons of 1/1 bodies as well. I mean, there's a lot of value to be had on the Death and Taxes side of the board, just not typically in this matchup. Now, Quirion Ranger will provide a guaranteed land drop for Elves, being able to pick up that forest, even if they're both tapped down from Rishadenport. Skyclave Apparition takes out the Quirion Ranger, and this is looking just absolutely awful. I'm a little bit surprised at that pre-combat block. I think I actually would have rather swung with everything and see if you could get the double block. It's probably not going to happen, to be honest, but if Sean did double block with Nettle Sentinel and Quirion Ranger to try and trade a 2-for-1 with Thalia, it ends up being a 2-for-none, as your Skyclave Apparition would be able to take out either one of those 1-drops, leaving Sean with just no choice but to scoop and go on to game number 3. Heritage Druid wants to help. Everything turning sideways. Sean just going to eat it. At this point, no chance of him trading. And now, during the upkeep, we have a crop rotation in response to the Rishadenport. We'll see what he can do with it. Oh, no. Oh, that's not how I would have sequenced that at all. So Sean scooping it up there, going to game number 3. So there you got to have some patience and let the Rishadenport activations target your lands and then respond. So Sean actually fired off a crop rotation in response to the first one. What you want to do when your opponent's targeting your lands is just float some mana. You know, just if you do that every time, that can work. Also, you could just wait until the second activation, potentially. Yeah, no, that's tough. Yeah. Yep, that is not what you want to see. I mean, it wasn't looking good anyways. But Sean has his work, has his mission, knows what he needs to do. Keep a solid hand, run over Death and Taxes like they're not even there. That's the game plan. A little bit more selective here, mulliganing, and leading out with a turn 1 Green Sun Zenith, X equals 0. I am liking it. Got to approve here. Now, subsequent elves like Quirion Ranger and Nettle Sentinel, or not elf, Wirewood Symbiote. It's an insect, but Quirion Ranger and Symbiote allowing you to untap can be even more powerful. Luke actually needing to take the turn off and use a Wasteland on the Dryad Arbor. However, Sean can make his second land drop and cast the Allosaurus Shepherd, a card that will represent lethal if left unchecked. He can make all of his elves into 5/5s. Another Wasteland. Birchlore Ranger. And Gaia's Cradle into another Allosaurus Shepherd and a Heritage Druid. And swinging. So right now, we've got 10 damage that can potentially come in here. If this Allosaurus... Well, there's 2 Allosaurus Shepherds, so that's just going to work. It's a terrible situation for Luke as Allosaurus Shepherd, despite Sean being hellbent and being wastelanded twice, this Gaia's Cradle plus 1 more mana would actually be lethal. If he just has a land in hand, that would be the most savage slow roll of all time. Probably looking at an elf. Probably costs more than 1 mana. Tapping for 1. And everything turning sideways. So 10 damage coming in. Yeah, that must be an elf that cost... Maybe there's like a Green Sun Zenith. We'll see what it is at the end of the game here. But 10 damage to the teeth. And if Sean draws a land or an elf, it's just going to be that much worse on this follow-up turn. That's why it's such a brutally hard matchup. Allosaurus Shepherd, while not at its strongest, when your opponent doesn't have counterspells, is just another absolute blowout scenario. Green Sun Zenith, Natural Order, naturally casting Crater Hoof. So many dangerous spots already existed. Now you've got 4 copies of a $100 1/1. I mean, he's probably... Well, he might be $100 now. I actually don't know. He's been all over the place in between like 140 and, under 100. Everything turns sideways. And Sean's going to be able to just pump it up. Luke says, no, that's good. We don't need to see it. That's fine. As he scoops it up. And Allosaurus Shepherd absolutely steamrolls that third game. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.